All right, something we've seen it. Like how long for the fact that listen, I think Kavanaugh did it, but how long does this go on until you're a new person and it doesn't like you are not the person that you were when certain acts went down.
He was a 17-year-old drunk teenager. We all were 17-year-old drunk
but
teenagers.
here's the thing.
I don't think we were horrible people.
Not like that.
Not like that.
And I think what comes with Kavanaugh, had he been a rags to riches story where he made mistakes on his journey up, I think we would have been a lot more forgiving of him than if he hadn't been the rich twat of a frat boy that he is. Right, and if you've always been that guy,
they're all rich frat
But that's
boys.
my point.
That's the
right?
club. That's their club.
That's my point. How did he know her? From the country club, right? So he's been this guy the whole time, right? Yeah. Trump has been this guy the whole time.
You think he did that? Do you think
absolutely
he did that?
Absolutely.
How did he get away with it? What kind of system do we have?
How is Trump getting away with all this insanity? There is no consequence.
Well, you just said, right, there's no consequence.
There's no consequence.
He will never admit to doing anything wrong.
There's no...
Even when it's right in front of his face, he'll not admit it.
Right. Listen, to take it off the right for a second, let's look left for a moment. And you and I have had conversations about Obama. And you're like, oh, Obama's perfect. No, absolutely not perfect. But he was a good president.
Yes.
And he's the best in my lifetime, which says a lot about the presidents we've had in my lifetime. Because I don't think at the end of the day, I think he'll be on the grand list better than average.
I think he'll be up there. But what makes a good president?
He's not making
what makes a good president?
Look at good presidents. Let's take Abraham Lincoln and FDR as sort of the 1 and 2 of the whole thing, right?
Top.
What made them good presidents, right?
They
were unifiers.
They were unifiers,
right?
And they did the right thing,
right? They gave up their own personal agendas to do the right thing for the country.
For the country.
Right? They also won their wars. And the wars were put upon them, right? They inherited these circumstances, and they rose to the occasion where lesser men had already failed.
They rose above.
Correct. And
I think Obama's going to be in the top 5 or 10.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it won't happen until he's long dead.
Well, this is me looking at it from a historical perspective, right? So 100 years from now, Clinton will be forgotten. First George W. or H. Walker Bush, he'll be forgotten.
I'm not even going to forget Slick Willie. I mean, he was pretty slick.
Now, 100 years from now?
Okay, 100 years.
You tell me who was president 100 years before us.
Abraham Lincoln. Garfield.
He was already dead by this point.
Herbert Hoover.
So 100 years
Herbert
ago.
Hoover.
Herbert Hoover. So right before the Great Depression, right?
Woodrow Wilson. 100 years ago.
Yeah, he would have been president 100 years ago. So he would have been president 100 years ago, Woodrow Wilson. Because we're coming up on the 100th anniversary of World War I next year. Or was it this year? The end of World War I. Yeah, it's this year. This is the 100th anniversary, I believe. So yeah, Wilson, 100 years ago, Wilson is president. So if that's Wilson probably go down as one of the worst.
Well, right, because he was remembered for being a racist and
racist, not that all withstanding, because some of those things can be sort of cast aside because you are a person of your time.
Right.
But creating the Federal Reserve Bank, that was bad. Getting us involved in World War I after campaigning, that was bad. Basically putting the country in the hands of the robber barons, which Teddy Roosevelt had fought tooth and nail to get us out of. He kind of set the stage for the Great Depression. And then you have the 3 frat boys that get in after that, Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover. And sure enough, the party went feet up. And that's when FDR had to get called in, right? So
most of them were frat boys, though.
Sure, they all go to the same schools. They all know each other. It's not like there's a whole bunch of rag to riches stories.
That's why Kavanaugh got in, because he was one of them.
Right. And that's why
what
he
they
felt
want.
so indignant. It's no different than
He
Hillary.
stood up for himself. He stood up. Whether he did it or not, he stood up for himself. And I think that was a very good thing he did.
There are better ways to stand up for yourself.
Maybe, but he did stand up for himself. And he was being cast upon. And he
I
stood
don't
up.
know. He sounded like a whiny little toddler to me, but
And I thought he said what needed to be said. As a whiny young toddler.
well,
but,
and that's fine. Maybe it did, but I don't want a Supreme Court justice like that.
but he got
just
in
don't.
anyway.
Well, of
even though
course,
we
of course
didn't
he
want
did.
him to get in. Even though he
Of
was
course.
put upon to be a scoundrel and one of those guys, he still got in.
I want to know.
Can't-
Well,
why that? How could that happen?
well, here's the thing. Neil Gorsuch just got in basically without even a hiccup. He just got in. Nothing came forward. Nothing happened. There was really no controversy other than the fact that he said you can lose your job if your company tells you to die in your truck, and you don't die in your truck and they fire you. Well, you got fired. Like, that's a pretty controversial thing, but that's pretty much conservative id. Like, I'm sorry, but the corporation is always right. It's pretty much how the right has been for a long time. If that's your only controversy, that's at least about policy. That's not about him as a person, right? I'm sure Gorsuch is a perfectly fine sociopath at home. They're all sociopaths at that
and
level.
they're all frat boys.
Right? But
they're
Kavanaugh...
They're of a club. That's a club.
Kavanaugh was a bit, not to harp on craziness, but it being election day, I'm really interested to see what the results are going to be for today.
Sure, this is big.
Because my thing is, I'm not going to vote out of fear. So I'll give you three examples of how I'm going to vote today, and I still haven't figured out everybody. After we wrap up, I'm going to go down the list and figure out who's funded by who and all that kind of thing.
I left it. I didn't bring it with me. Who's running?
But our lieutenant governor, the guy's up for Fetterman, I like him. I like where he stands. He's the real reason I'm going out to vote today, is I want to make sure he gets into office, or at least do my part to do that. Tom Wolf, he doesn't excite me, but as governor, he stood in the way of Republicans when they've tried to take away women reproductive rights and try and declare war on Philadelphia because sanctuary city. No,
He seems like a good guy. He seems like he stands on the
overall,
side of righteousness.
I don't know about all that.
It seems
but
to me that way. I mean, maybe that's the image they're portraying with
he
it.
has shown courage. He has shown courage. He sounds like he wants to be on the right side of history. And while I wouldn't classify him as a progressive, I think with Fetterman going in and becoming his lieutenant governor, that will pull him more to the left, and Pennsylvania will probably go blue again come 2020, which is good. Now, that said, Bob Casey is up for election. Bob Casey is a Clinton Democrat.
He's another frat boy.
He's a trust fund baby. He's for fracking. He's for deregulation
They're
of Wall
so far
Street.
removed from the working class, from
Absolutely.
the masses.
And that's the problem. It's supposed to be
They're so far
for the
removed.
people, by the people, of the people.
We need Abraham Lincoln to come
Right.
over the hill and start running.
What
A
was
guy
it?
like
Of the
that.
people, by the people, for the
For the
people.
people, yes,
Right.
that
So,
was- yes.
but they're not of the people anymore. Even though that was a misnomer, because you could have called
And they're
Lord
not even
Washington
for the people, and they're
Duke
not
Jefferson.
even by the people. They're the
For their
elite.
donors.
They're the elite.
They're for their donors. And I understand. I watched a Trump rally. It was a documentary, and what was interesting about the documentary was it just sort of lingered on some of his rallies, not just the bullet points that we saw on MSNBC or CNN, but really lingered on it. And beyond his nonsensical babbling, he did have some things that he said, I could see them resonating. I absolutely could, because he ran as a populist. He is a lying populist, but he ran as a populist. Okay. And he was running against a corporatist, so that's almost never going to go in your favor, right? So, as the corporatist, especially in a populist election, because you had Bernie Sanders on the left, you had Trump on the right, and the Democrats rigged the election so that the corporatist won. Okay, we know that to be the fact. They're not even debating that one, right? Now, if you would have ran Bernie Sanders, I know plenty of people that would have voted for Bernie and not Trump, but they just couldn't vote for Clinton. So the Democrats lost that election more so than Trump winning it, right? That said, what were we talking about?
Well, it
that
seems
said-
like the system is rigged.
Well, the system is rigged. That's how Kavanaugh is a Supreme Court justice. That's why
Right.
George W. Bush is walking free. That's why Barack Obama caused a whole nother war, did exactly to Libya what Bush did to Iraq, and the left still loves him. He's out on the campaign
He
trail
is.
now.
He's campaigning
doing the
like a
thing.
Southern diplomat.
Right? And, that's all fine and
Well,
well
he
and
is
good.
a Southern diplomat, I guess, from Hawaii.
Yeah, I'm all amped up today, man.
You are.
It's election day.
Well, that's good. We need everybody to get amped up and get out there and vote and change this rigged system.
But here's the thing. Going back to the way I'm voting, that's what we were talking about. I'm not going to cast a ballot for Bob Casey. I'm not voting for the Republican, but that will stay. There's actually a Green Party candidate running for Senate, and I'll cast my vote
Is that
for
a
him.
write-in?
No. There's Green Party. He's
on there?
registered. He's on the ballot. And I'll cast my vote for him because
you could-
he represents me.
Okay.
Right? Casey doesn't represent me. Now, the Republican doesn't represent me either. But I'm not going to vote out of fear. I'm not going to simply just vote for Bob Casey because he's not the Republican. No, you have to earn my vote. Thank you for joining us for that clip of our weekly podcast. If you want to get more bonus footage or join us for the entire podcast, head on over to Patreon, where our Eagle, Tiger, and Dragon subscribers get access to not only what we cast and talk about, but advanced lessons in your forms, in your Tai Chi, and in your life.